disorders are so tough because it's an addiction. I think that's the easiest way to equate it to like something. It's an addiction to a mindset related to food. And unlike, if you're an alcoholic, you can avoid most situations if you want that have alcohol in them. Or when you do enter a situation, you know that you're going into the bar and like, I'm going to be on, I'm going to have my friend with me, like as my that's going to keep me accountable. Like whatever it is, but eating disorders, the addiction is with the mindset you have about your very own body that travels with you every step of the way through life. It is with food, which comes up multiple times a day for the rest of your life. And so it's very complicated. And I think that I'm so grateful for the work I've done because it's not something that ever goes away. It's not something that I'll ever just be like, that's gone from my life. I am so used to the mindset now that I know how to manage it. And now we have a pretty healthy, I say that with air quotes because it's a very unhealthy, way of being. But yet I have a very healthy relationship with my eating disorder thoughts now. I understand them and I'm able to be like, hey, you're not being logical. Get out of here. I don't accept your judgments of me right now. I'm able to like really talk to them and understand that like, you don't govern the way I feel about myself anymore. And when they start to try, that's the thing. I tell them, like, get out of here. Like, you do not get to tell me my value based on this meal or based on what my body's like right now, because am a little bit off my game right now. And that's okay. I'm allowed to be, so I really have this relationship where I'm okay, like having these dialogues and putting them in their place and checking reality often. I read a book called Life Without Ed when I was kind of beginning this whole journey, and I was just fascinated because I never had like studied much about mental health prior to having this huge moment in my life that almost broke me. And so I was fascinated by this book because this woman talks about how she separates herself from her eating disorder. She named it, she called it Ed, and I was like, all right, I'll call mine Ed too, eating disorder, it makes sense. And she talks about how she would have conversations with it. She even would pull up a chair, an empty chair, and she would tell the eating disorder that it was lying to her. And then the thoughts that would come in, she would separate her thoughts from the eating disorder. And I think with mental health, in whatever shape you are dealing with it in, whether it's anxiety or depression or mental health, it's so important to realize that these thoughts, well, one, we are not our thoughts. So often we think we are our thoughts, but I think when you can separate yourself of the conscious mind of what you want to believe, what you are choosing to actively say, this is what I have learned, this is what I believe, this is who I want to be. That's way closer to self than these kind of thoughts that have been learned and that most of the time have come from outside of yourself. They've come from influences throughout your life. They've come through pop culture, through media, through things you see around you, and those are the voices that fill your head so often, and they're not actually yours. And so being able to separate my thoughts of who I wanted to be and who I believed myself to be when I really thought about my dreams, my goals, and then there was the eating disorder side. Separating the two was life-changing for me. And I do it now with anxiety. I do it with depression. I do it with, anytime these little things come and ebb and flow through my life, I'm able to just separate myself from them. And, the conversations were really hard in the beginning. I can remember when I knew I was alone, none of my roommates were home, which is rare when you live with 5 other girls in college and share a small apartment. But those moments when I was I'm home alone right now, I would sometimes take an exercise to look at myself in the mirror and say the things that I did not believe anymore. You do have worth. You are enough. I am not my body. That scale does not determine how I feel about myself. Just these new thoughts. And I remember not believing them at all, and my brain would categorize them as a lie and put them in the lie folder of the brain. But eventually, if you say something enough and look into your eyes as you say it, maybe it's not a lie. Your brain starts to think, maybe this is real. Maybe we actually do believe this. And so these, what felt like lies started to become possibilities, and then they started to slowly become truths and filling yourself with the things you want to believe in. But it was painful at the beginning. I remember literally tears streaming down my face as I would say this, because I just was I don't believe it. But yeah, separating myself from the negative thoughts and consciously focusing more on the positive was game changing for me. And now it's a very natural, like, I know exactly who you are when you start to come in. I know that's Ed. I know that it's telling me these things about myself. And it really is difficult too. Sometimes like I'll look in the mirror and be like, have I kind of let myself go a little bit? Or is that Ed talking? Like, I can't tell sometimes, you know, like especially as I'm approaching a tour and I want to look really great, or if I'm about to film a music video and I want to be super fit. It's like, is that Ed or is that me? Or do I need to probably hit the gym a little harder? Or am I fine? Like, it's really hard to tell. And I just have to learn to let go a lot, and say, hey, it's okay, regardless of who it's from. I love my body. I love myself. And if I want to work a little harder, sure, I can work a little harder. But the Ed thoughts are the ones that say you're worthless because the way you look or the way you weigh or any of that.